pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, I need a motion on the work session minutes from the last meeting.
Motion to adopt.
Have a motion to adopt. All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous.
Need a motion on the regular council meeting minutes from the last meeting.
Motion to adopt.
All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous.
Mr. Mayor, you up?
Thank you so much. Just before we start tonight, Doubletree is having a appreciation customers tonight, and many of us that got invited. I suspect you'd like to have a big crowd. Your wife would, at least. That's not correct. So after our meeting tonight, I'm going to wander over there. So we'd invite all the city council, anybody else that would like to have a little food. They're welcome to come, right, Tracy?
Yes, sir.
As long as they commit to stay there.
I understand there's a roasted pig on the menu.
Oh, whoa, a roasted pig. Wow. We have a full house tonight because we've got a lot of happy youngsters, and we got a lot of proud parents and grandparents and other friends of Trinity Wildcats. The student athletes at Trinity have a long history of athletic success, winning numerous state titles in various sports. However, the Wildcats have never seized the state crown in girls soccer. This year, there were high hopes the drought would come to an end, and Trinity had a magical season. The team etched a record of 22, 2, and 2 ties. The season saw 2 players, senior Mary Martin Moonaham and Nicole Brown, both score the 100th goals of their career as the Wildcats went undefeated, I should say, in the regular season area play. In the first 3 rounds of the Alabama 4A, 5A playoffs, the team outscored their opponents 19-1 to advance to the Final Four. In the semifinals, the team's defense remained stellar, shutting out where I went to kindergarten in Mobile, Alabama, St. Paul's, 1-0. Last Friday's championship game was another stingy contest that ended in regulation with a 1-1 tie. After 2 scoreless overtime periods, the Wildcats prevailed 4-3 in a shootout to secure the team's first ever girls soccer title. The coach is Annalyn Coker. Would you welcome her as she comes to the microphone? Coach, we've got a number of players here tonight, and we're going to do one big picture, but we're going to make sure every one of the players gets recognized. But I know that you want to speak for the entire team and tell them how proud you are of their success.
First, thank you for inviting us to come tonight. It's a privilege to be here. I couldn't be more proud of this group for the perseverance and the hard work they showed and never giving up. That last game, they were down 1-0 the whole game, and they came back and did something magical, and I'm extremely proud of you. Thank you.
All right, before we call up, what I want to know is, who was the one that scored the goal in the 1-0 defeat at St. Paul's?
That was Healy Matheson.
Healy Matheson. Well, the reason I know that is because the day that happened, I was with her grandfather, and you talk about a proud person that particular day. He said, we tied. She scored, and we won. So who did the free kick to win the championship?
Last one was Mary Davis Bricken. She's a freshman.
Where's Mary Davis? Do you have a father by the name of John, maybe? Yeah, how about that? That's good. That's great. Everybody here is important, but those 2 I wanted to make sure we called out. So we're going to call their names up. They're going to get a certificate of congratulations. We're going to have them line up, and we're going to pick the city council. How about that? Yes, please. We can do that. Michael Burdell, who authored this exam.
Assistant Coach Maynard.
The assistant coach.
Mary Alice Sasser. Mary Davis Bricken. Emmeline Etheridge. Rebecca Herndon. Healy Matheson, and she scored that penalty kick with 2.5 minutes left in regulation to force overtime. And tennis too, probably. Bentley Moore.
You can see we got a big crowd, big number tonight.
Ella Kate Osmer. Kate Stewart, one of the shootout kickers. Catherine Warren, another of the shootout kickers. Mary Curlis. Is that her? How am I saying her name right? Curls. Mary Curls. Just one syllable. Caroline Parkman. Annie Roth. Miller Williams. Hazen Finley. Am I pronouncing the first name correctly? Another shootout scorekeeper or goalkeeper. Catherine Moore. Anna Lawrence Pemberton. That's a really deep bench. Hayden Tipton. Ann Price Bishop. Elizabeth Portis. Zoe Portis. Jessica Wilson. Mary Martin Mooneyham, one of the players with 100 career goals. A senior. 104 for the. Nicole Brown, another senior with 100 goals. And then senior goaltender Joy Bishop, she was the 4A, 5A soccer tournament MVP. And if any of the parents want to come up close to for the photo op. Y'all can come on real close for sure. Don't be shy.
We spent on something. Good?
Oh, thank you. Watch out. Say Trinity. Trinity!
They just cut your head off.
Good? Mr. President, we have had some very good publicity over the last several months, and I've asked Dawn Hathcock to come and to share with you a slide presentation that's a very short slide presentation to show you the quality and the caliber and the breadth and the reach of those premier institutions that are talking about us in addition to to the Montgomery Advertiser. So Dawn, where are you? And Dawn, as you know, runs the Convention and Visit Bureau. We don't have the numbers yet for the April time frame, but the March time frame kept us first place, and we were in the high 70s for that particular month. So Dawn, if you will.
Yes, sir. So we have been working with a PR agency, and we feel like they are doing very good for us. So I wanted to show you some of this. It says through July, but what I'm going to show you today is just what we've seen since the first of the year, so January. Oh, went too far. Hold on. All right. So Houston Magazine, USA Today. These are all feature stories. New York Times, and I want you to count how many times I say New York Times. Travel Pulse, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, New York Times, Skift, Thrillist. Those are both tourism-based pieces. CBS, National, Garden and Gun Magazine, AM New York, Food and Wine, New York Times, Pathfinder Magazine, Business Insider, 2 articles, Southbound and Traveler, Condé Nast, Travel and Leisure, CNN Travel again, New York Times again. So if you were counting with me, New York Times has covered us 4 times in the last 6 months. That's pretty impressive. And this does not count all of the coverage that we got through EJI. This is a lot of, it's mentioned in there, but this isn't everything. So these are the ones we worked with directly. And again, these are some of the desk side visits we've had in New York when we've gone up and sat down with them, so you can see those that have written about us. There's still stories out there. We just hosted 5 writers last week, and we have another writer with Worth Magazine, if you see that up there, that's coming next week. And we have hosted writers in the destination. This shows some of those. This is who was here last week. And that's it.
Well, first of all, the last one, Worth Magazine, the president and publisher of Worth Magazine will be here next Wednesday to look at Montgomery. They have, for the last several years, done a feature every year. It's a national magazine that comes out quarterly. Every year they feature the destination city, and it's been Charleston, Savannah, Nashville, and we're trying to make sure that it's Montgomery. If you take the New York Times, and you've already seen this, but this is what is the back page of the travel section of New York Times. It's 36 hours in Montgomery, Alabama, and the writer articulates for 36 hours what in fact did, all the way from the reckoning with race to savoring the South, the story time, the mid-century cafe, civil rights roots, depth and delight, to the pulpit, the reflecting on history, Shakespeare, the Artie happy hour.
Can you get back to the mic?
Nosh.
Microphone, we can't hear you.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, it's well done, and Montgomery is well featured in that. As we close tomorrow at 10 o'clock, a very solemn ceremony where we will show our gratitude to our fallen officers. It's the Memorial Day police service. It's at 10 a.m. in front of the police headquarters, followed by a luncheon afterwards. Each and every one of you are invited. There will be a tent there in case it's really hot. And we would be honored if the city council would present themselves and to greet some of the families that are some of the fallen officers, and those families grieve, but we understand this is an uplifting opportunity for them. So please come at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. With that, Mr. President, I turn it over to you.
While you're there, Mr. Mayor, this next weekend is the League of Municipality activities. Would you kind of go over where we need to be and when?
Yes. I don't have the real schedule, but at 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon is the opening session. The governor will address, I think they'll be talking about legislative agendas and things like that. Saturday night starting at 6 o'clock, weather permitting, we will be at the fountain there. Thank you. We'll be at the fountain on 1 Dexter. We'll have stilt walkers, we'll have trapeze, we'll have some mermaids in the fountain, and a lot of other activities going on. There'll be a nice band, as well as some food from local vendors. If it's raining, or if there's bad weather, we will adjourn to the train shed, and we'll get a bathtub for the mermaid somehow. We hadn't figured that one out yet. But after that, Sunday activity starting with the prayer service all the way to 5:30, the expo, and there's some breakout sessions, things like that. You can find that in municipal marketplace, bonds, and other things. On Monday is the expo opens. The general sessions at 10 o'clock to noon. Then there's an Ask Your Attorney, the annual business section where you have elected who is going to represent us.
Tracy and I.
Tracy and Charlie. That's the 3:45 time frame. Then after that, there's a reception, and then the president's banquet, which will be very short. But then there's going to be, who's the entertainment? Jennifer Holliday will be the entertainment Monday night, and then Tuesday they'll have a general session at 8:15, and we'll close at 10 o'clock. We'll have 600 municipal officials and guests here. It'll be a great opportunity for us to showcase our city, and we will do so in the traditional Montgomery fashion. I hope that the rain will either get out of here or delay coming, because we've planned a stellar party that will be long remembered.
So the Saturday night event's basically our welcome to the 600 people.
We are in fact hosting, it is a welcoming event. Charlie could not get out of it the first year that he was mayor in '09, so we've hosted it in '09 and 14 and now 18. This is our third time, and we've tried to outdo ourselves each time. So come on down Saturday at 6,
okay.
At least.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, we got any reports you need to make?
Oh, yes, sir, I have a report.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President and Council, we had a meeting of our ad hoc committee on vacant and abandoned structures and the neighborhood revitalization initiative and the business license enforcement for rental properties on last Thursday, May the 10th. And I'd like to thank our clerk who did such a yeoman's job on the meeting minutes, and I would like to draw from some of the minutes from the meeting. Councilman Archly and Councilman William Green, along with myself, are the 3 members of that committee. Mr. Green, because of some miscommunication that we apologize for, was not in attendance at the meeting, but we certainly plan to have one again in the very foreseeable future, and he will certainly be in attendance at that one. I served as a chairman of the committee, and of course our very talented city clerk, Brenda Blaylock, served as the clerk of the meeting, and I will be pulling from her notes here as from minutes of the meeting to give you some idea of the kinds of things that we talked about. We addressed the issues remaining before the committee, which were 3-pronged in my parlance, and that is, number 1, how to dispense with state-owned tax delinquent properties so that they can be put back to productive use. We discussed rental registration and inspection programs, also the vacant and abandoned properties, particularly in impoverished areas, which have become fertile ground for vagrancies and illegal activities. If the city, we believe, can attack these areas, it will make a huge difference. We asked the Public Works Director, Mr. Conway, to address the progress that has been made since the consultant's report and the previous committee meeting. Mr. Conway stated that there were 4 areas being addressed: clean up, board up, fix up, and tear down. Mr. Conway turned the reporting over to Mr. Thomas Carr to report on his activities to date, and as we all know, Mr. Carr has been promoted to a position to work toward developing this neighborhood initiative effort. Mr. Carr reported that so far the city has torn down 160 structures. He also reported to us that there are new requirements now from the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, having established a new criteria in the asbestos abatement process, which is slowing down the process for demolition somewhat and is a bit more costly. He says the city has to date approved 75 demolitions for the year, 30 out for testing under the new ADEM requirements, and 35 are dropping as of last week. The number of demolitions this year may decrease because of the new asbestos process. He also reported that he has been meeting with the neighborhood response team, with Chief Ernest Finley and Sanitation Department, and he said he's creating a map to identify players in the city and creating a network of city employees to solve many of the problems that we're talking about. Mr. Carr also reported that he's talking with vendors and looking at programs to create a database of properties in the city, but it's proving to be very expensive, he said, so they're going to try to structure a program in-house which will overlay with the city's GIS system. He said many of the abandoned vacant buildings in the city are state-owned properties. Mr. Conway went into more detail regarding the new requirements of the Department of Environmental Management and the new requirements. As chairman, I asked about the cost effect of these new requirements. Mr. Carr stated that there is a $1,200 to $1,500 difference. It previously cost an average of about $1,500 to tear down a structure, and that price has now doubled because of the new requirements from the Department of Environmental Management. Chris Conway reported that there were 6 departments now working on neighborhood problems. The best access to the system is 311, which is processing each complaint to the correct department. And they are planning on adding information to the open data section of the web page for public information in the very near future. During discussion regarding any new registration requirements or fees that might be attached to any legislation that we push forward, it was suggested that language be put into the document that the city would not add fees to properties that are under contract to be sold or renovated. And this is in reference to our vacant and abandoned buildings proposed ordinance that we're currently still working on. Mr. Conway expressed concerns with adding exceptions to the legislation, but I took the position as chairman that there are needs for exceptions that are fair and judicial, and we will pursue that as we author the legislation. At this point, Mr. Barry Crabb, the finance director, came to address the committee with what might be done regarding a rental registration program which is provided for in the business license code. We talked about that before as we were preparing to offer a separate ordinance altogether having to do with rental registration and inspection. We realized from the consultant's report that the business code, license code ordinance that we already have on the books already provides ample opportunity for rental registration and inspection. So we withdrew that ordinance, and we are looking now for the finance department to continue to work diligently to develop regulations and guidelines that will allow for rental registration and inspection under the existing business license code. Mr. Crabb stated that the finance department is looking for ways to address this, but he says it's a very sticky issue. His staff was checking with other cities to see how they were handling it. He felt it would be feasible to register rental properties, but he says he sees problems with inspections of rental properties. He doesn't think finance can solve all the problems, but he will try in his department to address these issues. And that is, I guess, a pretty good capsule nutshell of a report that we generated at the meeting. And I would like to, at this time, ask the other committee members if they would consult their calendars so that we can go ahead and set our next meeting for either June 12th or June 14th. June 12th is a Tuesday and a council off day, and June 14th is the following Thursday. So if you will provide us that information before we leave today, then we can inform the clerk as to when we can set our next meeting.
You say 12th, 14th?
Yes, sir.
We'll be out of town both of those days.
You'll be out of town both of those days? We'll have
Pull
to.
your mic around.
I was just making a statement. I'm leaving town on the 12th and won't be back to the 19th.
Okay, well, we certainly will work around it. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Very good. Looks like we're making progress. Big issue, big problem.
Yes, sir.
Gotta take my- On our public communication agenda items, Gene Gunner would like to speak from Capitol Heights Association on item number 4. Gene Gunner, please.
Thank you, President. Gene Gunner with the Capitol Heights Civic Association. Mr. Larkin.
Remind you, we have 3 minutes.
Yes. On the peddlers and solicitors chapter that they're wanting to change, this hit social media before I got an email about it. And the finding in section 20-2.
Could you pull the mic up to your
Yeah.
mouth?
The
Put it back
finding,
over to
move
you.
the mic.
Pull the mic over to you. It'll move. There you go.
the finding in section 20-2, and this is the city ordinance. The entry or entering into residential property by peddlers, canvassers, solicitors, and transient vendors of goods and services is a matter of public concern, necessitating the reasonable regulations of this chapter for such a conduct for the preservation of privacy and safety of the citizens of the city. And I hope that those findings still hold true. I think some of our neighbors were not really pleased to hear about the extended hours. They are currently Monday through Friday, 4 to 7 p.m., Saturdays from 10 to 6, and Sunday 1 to 6. And I think that those are good hours because people are home during those hours. During the day, the only people that are home are probably retired individuals, that sort of thing. And so I think the hours that are available already are sufficient. And there's fraud that could be considered in with that, and theft of property. People in the Capitol Heights community, they get a little funny when there's a lot of strange people in the neighborhood. And having somebody available to walk on their property anytime during the day instead of just specific hours is bothersome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Madam Clerk, first item.
Mr. President, item 1, ordinance rezoning one lot located at 3823 Southmont Drive from an R75S district to a B2Q district.
Yes, ma'am, your name for the record?
Nikki Motley.
Okay, Nikki. Mr. Green?
Yeah, I spoke to the list of people that she provided, as well as the neighborhood association president, and I didn't have any concerns, and they were okay with it, so therefore, I'm moving that we approve it.
Okay, have a motion on the floor to approve. All in favor, raise your hand.
Five. Hold your hands up just a minute. Let me get your numbers down. 5, 6, and 8. It's 5 yeses.
Okay. All opposed?
2.
Okay.
I'm missing 1 vote.
Abstentions?
Did you abstain?
Okay. 5.
That does it. It is adopted on a vote of 5, 2, and 1.
Okay, very good. Good luck with your business, ma'am.
Item 2, application for retail beer off premises only, doing business as Coliseum Food Mart, 2090 Coliseum Boulevard.
Representative Coliseum Food Mart. Coliseum Food Mart. We had the public hearing last time. You were not here. Your name for the record, sir?
My name is Varun Patel.
Mr. Patel, okay. Council, you have any questions, Mr. Patel? Mr. Lyon, this is your district? You got to pull the mic around.
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. You okay?
Move-
You'll make a motion?
Move to suspend the rules.
Have a motion to adopt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Have a motion to adopt. All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous, resolution is adopted.
Good luck with your business, sir.
Thank you.
Item 3, application for a lounge retail liquor Class 1 license, doing business as Utopia Event Center, 5050 Narrow Lane Road.
Representative Utopia Event Center, please. I think we had the public hearing on this last time, so all we need is your name for the record, sir.
Roderick Battle.
All right, Mr. Battle. Mr. Green?
Yeah, spoke to the chief, and as well as Mr. Battle. Mr. Battle understands that the chief and I will be monitoring the situation. Also, a lot of the incidents that occurred prior to Mr. Battle's ownership, and he understands concerns that the chief had, and that we will be monitoring the situation. And should those incidents continue to occur, then at that particular point we will be revisiting it, and the license will be pulled. So hopefully everything will work out, and good luck on your business.
Thank you, sir.
Need a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to adopt. All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous, resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4, ordinance repealing Chapter 20 of the Code of Ordinances and adopting new articles regulating peddlers and solicitors.
Council, this is carry over. We need a discussion of council. You need a motion on this? Or a motion to table for 2 weeks?
Motion to table for 2 weeks.
Okay, have a motion to table for 2 weeks. All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous.
Okay.
Item 5, ordinance consent.
Real quick, Mr. President, on this, are we going to have some more discussion meetings prior to, set
think-
something up?
I think that
what's our game
each
plan?
person needs to make a discussion with the legal department.
If y'all want to have something, we'll be available if you want to have it somewhere. And
So we could call that, but I think the reality of it, we've had a lot of discussion. I think everybody knows the issue. So I think you'd like to call it.
Glenn was saying, maybe meet a few minutes early on the work session or
We
something.
could do
just
that.
to.
Do that.
I think between the emails and calls and folks that have talked and with everything going on, we just need to discuss it maybe with some due time and a little bit more in depth.
Okay.
I might be by myself on that, but I don't know.
Well, I've been by myself a lot of times.
I tell you what, we'll just meet 30 minutes early the next meeting
Meet
to
at
talk
3
about this.
o'clock rather than 3:30.
What?
Meet at 3 o'clock rather than 3:30.
Yes, meet at 3 o'clock.
I'll send out notices if that's good.
Right, let's make that, and
Will
we'll
of
talk
council.
about this before
Yeah.
we have the actual meeting.
And Mr. Chairman, if anybody probably, has some ideas on how to modify, or if they'd like to modify or whatever, if they could go ahead and maybe send some of those suggestions in so that we could all look at what's been sent in. I think that would help in the discussions.
Sounds good. Okay. Okay. Next
Item
item.
5, ordinance consenting to the sale, lease, or other disposal of real property owned by the Waterworks and Sanitary Sewer Board located at 22 Bibb Street.
Need a motion to
Motion to
suspend
suspend the rules.
All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous.
Motion to adopt.
All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous. Ordinance is adopted. Item 6, ordinance establishing procedures regulating the operation of bike share providers within the city of Montgomery.
Richard, did you have someone want to speak on this?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like, Jeff Feet would like to speak on this item. If you could approve that.
Be fine, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bollinger. My name is Jeff Feet. I've been living here in Montgomery since 2004. I'm a member of the Clean City Commission. I'm a founding member of the Lagoon Park Trail group, past president of the Montgomery Bike Club, current president of the Alabama Bicycle Coalition. I like living in Montgomery. I'm going to read this, take a minute. I'm very excited to see the city of Montgomery considering the introduction of a bike share program. A program like this type should benefit our tourism guests, students, potential new businesses, and our non-driving citizens. I do have very real concerns regarding the draft bike share ordinance that I received last night. I have very little experience in ordinance development or the workings of the city policy creation, so I'm clearly going to make some assumptions here. My concerns, which I have 7 of, have been shared with city planners and other people in the last 2 months, but they don't appear to have been addressed in the current ordinance, draft ordinance. So I'm going to share them with you guys and then let it go. Primary question is, does the proposed ordinance protect the city of Montgomery and allow it to advance with the rapid bike share industry developments as other Alabama cities are currently doing? From reading the proposed ordinance, it does not appear that the city of Montgomery has consulted with any of the bike share experts available, such as the North American Bike Share Association, which is a bike share industry organization with representation from system owners, operators, host cities, equipment manufacturers, and technology providers. Their mission includes bringing bike share to the forefront of city and transportation planning by providing resources and support for the implementation of bike share systems. The North American Bike Share Association has released best practice guidelines over many, many years, and I would recommend that these guidelines be taken into consideration by the city. The 7 issues I have concerns about, which may be in the ordinance but not what I saw. Number 1, is a bike share vendor required to indemnify the city of Montgomery at any specific amounts? This is a standard for bike share programs throughout the country. It is stipulated in the current draft ordinance, but there are no liability amounts specified. Number 2, is there a surety bond requirement that would protect the city from incurring costs in the event that a private bike share company goes out of business, thereby burdening the city with an inaccessible bike share system on the city right-of-ways? That's not clearly stated in the ordinance. Number 3, is there an insurance requirement that the bike share vendor must obtain and list the city of Montgomery in the policy? Currently, it is standard for bike share systems to have a general liability for $1 million or $2 million aggregate, $1 million auto insurance, and worker comp per state laws. This is stipulated in the draft ordinance. However, there are no liability amounts specified. Number 4, is there a requirement for live GPS on the bicycles, not on a user-side app on a phone, so that the bike share operator can track the bicycles for theft and routine maintenance? That's not addressed in the current draft ordinance. Number 5, are the data requirements in this ordinance aligned with North American Bike Share Association data standards? This is important because the bike share provider should be able to provide the city with where users are riding, and this information should be available for free to the city.
Please hurry. Your time is up.
Can I ask one question?
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Pardon?
Go ahead.
It should be available to the city for future infrastructure planning. Those standards are not specified. Is there a defined level of minimum service? I can talk to that for a minute. It's not in the ordinance. There should be some standards based on failures in other places in the state. Okay. Is there a provision to allow for electric pedal assist bike shares? This has been a key factor to the success of Zip bike shares in Birmingham. That's not in the ordinance. Right now, Huntsville is considering a scooter pilot plan with an alternative vendor than their current bike share vendor. Currently, Charlotte has 7 bike share vendors, should not be recommended by anyone. That's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Well,
Give
but
it to-
let me ask a question.
Mr. Bill?
Pardon?
Now, I probably wasn't that attentive. Now, your expert is in what you have expert in bike share programs. You have some expertise in that.
I am not an expert. I just listen to, I travel throughout the state. I'm involved with other groups.
Well, the reason I ask you, I mean, not to put you on the spot, but you bring up some interesting details, and I would just like to ask the city, the person who drafted ordinance, did we have some expertise, some person who expert in helping us to draft this?
Michael's coming up here. I'll tell you from my perspective that I basically looked at some of the other municipal ordinances and what some of the stuff that he's bringing up are things that we might not have the capability of enforcing. We do have a requirement. We do have data requirements. We are named as an additional insured. We are indemnified and held harmless, and we didn't put an amount. I mean, we just asked for indemnification and hold harmless. We start this whole process with an application for a license that goes through our engineering department. They will circulate it within the internal departments and then with the utilities to make sure there's no conflict with any of those. And we've asked them to, to maintain the structure where it's secured. I mean, there's some, Huntsville doesn't have an ordinance. I mean, some of those, there are municipalities that don't have ordinances. We wanted the ability to regulate and enforce as well as we can. Fortunately, we do have bike officers, so we've got risk management that has some familiarity with it. But he's right, this is something that we have not ventured into, and we're not going into necessarily the provider specific. We're trying to look at what we can do as a municipality in enforcement and provide this to this opportunity to our citizens and our visitors.
Well, Kim, let me ask. He said, if I read him right, that he had offered to discuss this. And I wish you had a talk back in work session, and you didn't. But I know we didn't have the time.
I didn't sign up correctly.
And Councilman Bell, Mr. Feet and other members of the Montgomery Bicycle Club have been working with the city when this, ever since the process was first started 3 years ago, with members of the planning department. Surely you remember being at the intermodal with us back then, and with us in this latest iteration as well. I mean, he's no stranger to the work we've been doing to get to this point.
The program.
Let me speak. You don't take up my time. Let me speak. Well, I wouldn't have any reservations, but I really would like to be on the side of err on the side of caution. So would it be out of order, Mr. Jen, right, would it hurt anybody if we took this over for 2 weeks?
Won't hurt a thing.
So that we can feel good, at least I would feel good that we had some discussion, because for my little mind, I'm going back and forth. I don't have the capability to understand a whole lot of stuff, but I think he's brought up some good points.
I don't know that we'll be able to make everyone happy if we wait until the first meeting of June. And as I've said, we've worked with Mr. Feet, we've worked with Robert Trefan, we've worked with everyone that has had an interest. But of course, the decision is the council's.
Let me ask you this. Is there somebody waiting for this to be done to come to Montgomery?
Not waiting, but as soon as you adopt this ordinance, we'll have a conversation with at least one vendor that will then start a 90-day period to get us to launch by the end of August.
2 weeks probably won't hurt it a whole lot.
Won't hurt or help.
Okay.
Here's what I would like. You did read a whole lot of information. If you can probably send all of that to all the councilmen, so that we can at least look at it, as opposed to trying to just scan it at a work session. If you can send that, we can look at it, and then, like I say, you did mention some good points, particularly on limiting liability. If you can send that to me, I would appreciate it so we can scan it.
Not just to you.
This to you guys already.
What to us?
You got a copy of everybody? You already had a copy for everybody?
Copies I emailed them.
Okay, you give it to the clerk, she'll pass it out.
Yeah.
Okay?
And this doesn't mean that we would change anything, but I really would love to have this, brother.
Okay,
Okay?
Absolutely.
I need a motion to
Excuse me, sir.
suspend the rules.
Excuse me, sir. Could you actually, I'd like a soft copy.
Well, she
Oh,
In other words, could you email it? You gonna email it to me?
I'll PDF it to you.
Okay.
To all of us. To all of us.
Certainly. I'll give you a hard copy and an email copy.
Okay,
Motion to suspend the rules?
have motion to suspend rules. All in favor, raise your hand.
Are y'all voting on number 6? Y'all
Number
carry that
6.
one over.
Are we carrying it over?
You have not read?
I thought y'all were carrying that
No,
one
carry it
over.
over.
Well, we just
Are you ready for me to read number 7?
We're gonna carry it over.
carried over 6, okay. That's good enough for me.
Item
looking for
7,
nine.
resolution denying and or revoking right to operate a business for failure to purchase business license. Andrea Burton Bell, doing business as Bell's Collision Center, 4213 Norman Bridge Road.
Mickey? Mickey, did Ms. Bell make any additional arrangements with you?
Not that I know of. Mr. Green, I think, was going to talk to her.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
What do you want to do with this?
I'm not gonna suspend the rules, I mean. we can
Okay,
carry it over.
we're going to carry over 7 then. Number 8?
Excuse me. Excuse me. What's going to happen in that 2 weeks?
Well, I'm gonna call her up and talk to it and, work with him to try to get a definite payment plan, so we're not going back and forth and try to, see if we can
Fine.
get it.
What we'd like to have happen in these 3 weeks is for her to get with our individuals and come with a satisfactory payment plan that we can accept in consistent with the parameters that we've had in the past.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, we can't have people operating their business.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, yeah, it has to be within the
She's been
parameters.
operating for a while without a business license.
Yes, and I'll, personally, work with her to try to get it done. Else otherwise, of course, it'll come back before the council and, license be suspended.
Okay. Next item.
Item number 8, application for a restaurant retail liquor license doing business as Fiesta Mexicana, 8844 Minnie Brown Road.
Representative Fiesta Mexicana. Your names for the record, please.
Jose Ortega.
Okay, Ms. Lee.
Laura Martinez.
This is a public hearing. Anyone like to speak against this item, please come forward. Seeing none, declare the public hearing's been held. It's proper for the council. Need a motion, council?
Move to suspend the rules.
Have motion to suspend the rules. All in favor, raise your hand.
What's yours?
Unanimous?
Move to adopt.
All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous. Resolution is adopted.
Good luck with your business, please.
Thank you.
Item 9, application retail beer and retail table wine off premises only, doing business as BKS Shell at 3445 Atlanta Highway.
Representative BK Shell, please. Yes, sir.
I'm here.
Here again.
Yes, sir. 3444 Atlanta Highway. I'm Jack Patel, the business owner from that store.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone like to speak against this item, please come forward. Seeing none, declare the public hearing's been held. It's proper for the council. Mr. Lyons?
Motion to suspend the rules?
All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous?
Motion to adopt?
All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous. Resolution is adopted.
Good luck with your business, sir.
Thank you very much.
Item 10, application for retail beer and retail table wine on or off premises, doing business as Piggly Wiggly Store at 3881 Atlanta Highway.
Your name for the record, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Mike Carreño,
Piggly Wiggly Man.
Piggly Wiggly Man.
Good. Piggly Wiggly in town. This is a public hearing. Anyone like to speak against this item, please come forward. Seeing none, declare the public hearing's been held. It's proper for the council. Need a motion?
Motion to suspend the rules?
All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous?
Motion to adopt?
All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous.
Mike, when will you be
Resolution is
open?
Thursday, 12 o'clock.
Wow. Good for you. It's
Yes,
great.
sir.
Good location.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir?
Get all that painting and rebuilding everything done so fast.
We've been working hard.
He's a grocerman, I can tell
Of
you.
course, I was the manager there with Winn-Dixie, so I bought my store.
Oh, you
So-
did? Good
Yes,
for
sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
for you.
So, thank you.
Hope you have better luck than I do with my store.
Thank you for
30 years ago.
investing in the community.
Superfoods, huh?
Yeah, thank you.
Superfoods. I had superfoods about 30-something years ago. Now,
You did all right.
you'll do good. That's a good location.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
Item number 11, resolution reappointing Harold Tate to the Planning Commission.
Mr. Larkin,
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
all in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous.
Move to adopt.
All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous. Resolution is adopted. 12, resolution assessing the cost of abatement of unsafe structures on various lots.
Need a motion to suspend rules on the rest of the agenda.
Suspend the rules on the rest of the agenda.
All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous.
Move to adopt.
All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous. Resolution is adopted. 13, resolution declaring public nuisances, authorizing abatement, and assessing cost of abatement of public nuisances on various lots.
You got anything on computer tonight for us? Come on, speak to us.
It's on the open data website now.
Okay.
All our past resolution data for this year is uploaded there.
Would you repeat what you told us in the work session, please?
I will, yes, sir. Year to date, the Property Maintenance Department has responded to a total of 8,153 complaints. Of those, 6,500 have been of nuisance variety. Out of those 6,500 nuisance complaints, we have had 5,000 violations. And tonight, y'all will be approving a total of 478 violations for this resolution.
Is that getting any better?
Fiscal year.
That's bad.
Sometimes, some not. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, we're getting in bad sometimes.
Yes,
Okay, need a motion to adopt this, gentlemen.
Move to adopt.
Have a motion to adopt. All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous. Resolution is adopted.
Okay. Madam Clerk, you've got one other thing on your desk?
Yes, sir.
This
We
would be
have,
the-
if needed, a resolution setting dates for District 4 special election for August the 28th and runoff for October the 9th.
Gentlemen, this would be for the empty seat if it does occur tonight. And this would call for a special election, and if it doesn't occur tonight, then the mayor would veto. Is that correct, Mayor? That's correct. Okay. Need a motion to suspend the rules. Have a motion to suspend the rules. All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous.
Move to adopt.
All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous. Resolution is adopted.
Okay.
And Council, I have put before you contingency funds for your approval for District 2, 2,500 to Madison Park Community Reunion Organization, 2,500 to Eastbrook Morning View Neighborhood Association, 2,500 to Dalrata Community Association, 1,500 to Timbers Homeowners Association, and 1,500 to Deerfield Neighborhood Association.
Any others? Mr. Pruitt?
Mr. President, move to adopt.
Have a motion to adopt. All in favor, raise your hand.
Unanimous.
You paid me off. All right, good deal. All right, let's see what we got next here. Everybody covered? Let's go into our public communication and non-agenda items.